Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Take two. We were having technical difficulties streaming to X, but welcome back to the Orange Report with Kira Davis. Sorry for those watching on YouTube or Facebook who got a notice and then were confused why we just dropped out. But we were trying to get it connected to our X account because X is really our main platform. And so thank you for hanging in there. And now we've lost 15 minutes off this show. So let me just encourage you to follow me everywhere. Go to justkiradavis.com. You need to go to justkiradavis.com, actually, and you need to read the story that I published this morning. Belfast is burning. I think we've reached critical mass globally speaking. So this is the Orange Report, all the news and views you can use from across Orange County and California and America, because California news is America news. But today I want to talk about something larger. And that is, I think we've pushed white people too far. I think white people have been pushed too far, and we're going to reap the whirlwind here pretty soon, and perhaps rightfully so. A couple of things have gone on in the last few days that have really felt, at least in American culture, like things are coming to a head. Number one, we've had the verdict in the Karmelo Anthony case. You'll recall the young black man in Texas who murdered a young white man at a football game or a school athletic event over, what seemed to be a typical teenage boy interaction, stabbed him, killed him, and suddenly the case became about race. And then in Belfast, where a Sudanese man was filmed trying to behead an Irish man in the middle of the street. That man survived. I cannot show you the video on this show, but if you want to go find it, it's on X. X has looser rules with that. They're playing it. And you can also, I think you can go over to Telegram, some of those like encrypted services, and look at it there. I can't show it. I could show it to you on X, but I won't. It is deeply disturbing, but I think you should watch it. And that man has survived, but his eyes have been gouged out. And he was being beheaded. He was in the middle of being beheaded, and what happened is an Irish patriot, found a 2x4 and smashed this Sudanese attacker in the head. And just like in the Henry Novak case, the UK police have tried to downplay what it was. Oh, they called it a stabbing, a knife incident. They've discouraged people from sharing it. They're trying to censor Elon, because they're saying Elon is the problem for spreading these images that get people upset. It's not the murder. It's not the rapiness that gets people upset. It's seeing it that gets people upset. Have we had enough yet? Are we officially in absurd land right now? I want to start, because now I'm running out of time here, but I want to start with the Karmelo Anthony case. I have not been covering this myself very much. Here in California, it's just been all elections all the time. And you out there in regular America and normie America, you've been wanting to know what's going on here in California. So my dance card has been full for weeks with California commentary. And really, in my mind, like that's where my head's been at. I am a huge supporter of the Steve Hilton campaign. You guys know that. Steve's a friend of mine. He's been on this show several times. And so I've been really working hard for California politics this primary cycle. And I haven't really been paying attention to what's been going on nationally and internationally. But I do know what's happening. And I know that case in Texas was a big deal. I didn't realize until yesterday how explosive it was going to be. But I'm going to tell you something. Something shifted. This is why I titled this podcast this. Something has shifted here in America. It started in 2024 on election night when it seemed like the whole culture changed overnight. Now we're in June. Typically, at least through the Biden administration and a large portion of the Obama administration, June has been like homosexual terrorist month. It's been like it's just Pride Month, and we're just assaulted with it everywhere. We're not just seeing it, we're assaulted with it. And every news station is running stories about rainbow crosswalks and rainbow benches and our police officers. Let's just think about how absurd that is. Our police officers have to put rainbow flags and trans flags on the side of their vehicles. And in athletics, our athletes have to wear them on their shirts and on their shoes. It's just become something It's become a cult. It's become a cult. We had a day of it, then a week of it, then a whole month of it. And your stores are taken over by these displays that nobody buys. There's not enough people in this country. There's not enough gay identified people in this country to make it an economically viable merchandise option. And so we have been assaulted with it yearly, year after year. And in fact, my old podcast, Just Listen to Yourself, I did an episode on Juneteenth, and Republicans were really upset. The Biden administration co-opted Juneteenth, made it a national holiday. We didn't ask for it, but we got it. And so my suggestion to Republicans, actually, and to conservatives was like, hey, if we got to have this holiday, let's make it a Republican holiday, which is what it is. Let's really do it up, and let's make it compete in, the marketplace against Pride Month. Like, let's use this opportunity because it is about Black people, and ostensibly the left loves Black people. We know that's not true, but that's what they say. Then let's make this month about a Black celebration, and let's let the Pride people choke on it. But then came November 2024, and the culture shifted overnight. And then the following last June, it just seemed like Pride just disappeared. It's like when we didn't have that boot on our neck of the Democrats, then nobody felt inclined to do it. And it's that way this summer as well. Even the city of Long Beach ended up canceling their Pride parade. It's not because of any political things, although I think technically, yeah, it is. But really, the organization that funded it didn't have the funding for it this year, and the city wasn't going to fund it. And so they pulled out. They couldn't continue to fund it. There's no real kickbacks for it. And so even Long Beach, which is like super gay here in California, it's a super gay place, they canceled it. But I think the reason that ultimately it just wasn't funded is because the interest is not there. And you could also point to what we're dealing with here in California, what everyone's dealing with, the gay community, everybody else, the Black community, everybody's dealing with the same thing, which is homelessness and crime. And so that's really what people are focusing on. And Long Beach is overwhelmed with homelessness and crime. And so, people aren't as inclined to get out and party. So that's going on as well, too. But I had said back then, yeah, let's use Juneteenth, fine. Let's make June. I even proposed to the president, let's make June through July America Month. If it's going to be Pride Month, let's just make it America Month. Why does Independence Day have to be one day? Why don't we just make it the whole month? We'll fold in Juneteenth to that. We'll fold in Flag Day. We'll fold in some lead ups, and then I'll end on July 4th. How about that? But the market has corrected itself. So, but that's what I was saying back then on that podcast. And I had a lot of responses from white conservatives who were like, I don't like any of this. I've never really seen it that way before, but I guess you're right. And I talked a lot about Black Lives Matter and how, we're not in charge. At that time, we were really under duress from our government here on the right, and we're not in charge, and we're not sure if we're ever going to be in charge. How do we hear our neighbors who are angry and hear what they're angry about without getting angry ourselves? How do we apply grace to this situation? Just Listen to Yourself is a 5-year podcast about that. But I'm going to tell you what, a lot changed for me personally after Charlie died. I didn't really feel like coming together with anybody after that. But I think a lot changed for our nation on election night 2024, and then after Charlie died. And when I look at the reaction to this Karmelo Anthony case, we're no longer inclined to be bullied by the BLM crowd, to be bullied into trying to do this all sides thing. We're no longer inclined to do that. When we're finally seeing the truth for what it is, white people are no longer inclined to do this. And now that I see this reaction, I think, and I look at what's happening in Belfast, where in the UK, where those people they pay more and more of their income. They give more and more of their income, their self-sacrifice, to pay for all of these exorbitant benefits that are world famous, free healthcare and free housing and all these social programs. They can't avail themselves of the social programs because if you're white in the UK, you get dropped to the bottom of that list. So they're paying for it, but they don't get it. That seems deliberate. And now they're exploding after this beheading. When I look at what's going on across the world and in this country, I'm watching white people in Texas rise up and say, no, we're going to say no to this Muslim explosion that's happening here. I'm telling you, we've pushed them too far. We've pushed them too far. And for a minute there, white people were trained into forgetting like what they've done in this world, in this country. And I mean like the innovation, the leadership, the political systems. Like I'm a Black person living in a majority white America. And I can tell you, what are the neighborhoods that me and my family are trying to get to? The white neighborhoods. Everybody's trying to get there. I'm not trying to move into a Black neighborhood. We moved out of a Black neighborhood. And no one's moving into the neighborhood we left. No one's moving in there because they want to be safer or calmer or have more opportunities for their kids. Like, let's just be honest. But for years, the BLM crowd took over the discourse in this country. And so reasonable people said, okay, how do we come together and hear each other and hear what, our problems are? And I'm going to tell you on my old podcast, Just Listen to Yourself, I've never seen so many people come forward and say, yeah, I'm willing, like so many white people, I'm saying, come forward and say, yeah, you know what? I don't understand this, Kira. I don't understand this type of anger, but I'm willing to listen. Or some of the things you've said, they're making me think. I don't agree with all of them, but they're making me think. And that podcast was really popular with people who just really wanted to understand what's going on. And my producer and I had conversations all the time about how we have never seen it like this. Like, this is a great opportunity for Black America. Like, white people, white conservatives, Republicans are coming to the table. They want to hear, they want to listen, they want to learn. They don't want to be just go along to get along, but they want to see, but they want to find out what it is they can do to calm things, to be a part of calming things, and to be a part of making this country successful. And you know what Black America did? Spit on them. Just spit on them. Made videos about them, called them losers, called them all kinds of names, started their anti-racism BS, shut their kids out of school, shut their kids out of scholarship opportunities, shut their kids out of the workplace with DEI and CRT, and then called them whiners and racists and white supremacists when they complain that perhaps this system isn't fair. Perhaps we're just engaging in reverse racism. And when I look at Belfast, it's on fire. They are going door to door over there, pulling migrants out of their houses. And that's our fate here if we don't wake up and realize what we're doing. White people are mad, and frankly, I think they have every right to be. And I'm nervous about it. I'm not going to lie, I'm nervous about it. Because that's kind of how it used to be, right? Where Black people, those of us, and there were a lot more of us back in the old days who are reasonable and patriotic Americans. Now we're going to have to go around proving to everybody that we're reasonable and patriotic Americans. But that's not white people's fault. That's our fault. And I've been saying this for years now. Black people, if we want to heal our community and we want to be folded into the American dream, we can't only be pointing to what's been done to us in the past or what we perceive as racism and discrimination now. We have to ask ourselves, how do we play a part in this equation as well? I talked about it on my old show where I was way more magnanimous and way more open to debate and reason. This version of Kira is not so open. This is post Charlie Kirk's death, Kira. Pre-Charlie Kirk, Kira was a lot more tolerant. But that tolerance has bought us just more wickedness. And so, yeah, I am nervous. Like, as a Black American, yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm not, I don't know. I think white people have been pushed too far. We brought them to the table. They came to the table willingly. And I know that was a heavy lift for conservative white people. For liberal white people, y'all are, You all are suiciding yourselves anyway. You've been suiciding yourselves forever, politically speaking and culturally speaking. But on the right, that was a heavy lift for people, because a lot of conservatives and Republicans understand, the notion of slippery slopes and overcorrecting. But a lot of them came to the table and we spit on them. Not me personally. There's something wrong in our community, and I think this is why so many people respond so passionately to Candace Owens, because she was saying things that a lot of white people were thinking and wanted permission to think. Now, she's a grifter and a liar, and she hates black people. So there's that, but a broken clock is right twice a day. Now, when Candace Owens was talking about this kind of stuff, when she doesn't talk about it anymore. If you noticed, she doesn't really talk about it anymore. She's moved on to a different grip. She wasn't making as much money on that. That's just, it's all based on clicks. But I would always say, there's a difference between somebody who talks about what's wrong in our community because they love our community and want it to be a part of the American experiment, and someone who says it because they hate our community and they wish they didn't have to be a part of our community. And I love our community. I love the Black community. I love the passion and the creativity, and we have contributed so much. Black culture, to a large extent, has become pop culture, and I think that says a lot about our influence, and that's why the government likes to use the Black community to drop perverse ideas into American culture, because Black culture is so influential. And there's a lot of research out there. I mean, I'm not going to go to the Alex Jones wing of this podcast, but there's a lot. I mean, look up Diddy's mom. Look up who Diddy's mom is. There's a lot of evidence that it doesn't even suggest. There's just a lot of evidence that the CIA has been meddling in the Black community forever. Why? Why would they choose us? We're only a small portion of the population. Why would they choose us to dump drugs and rap music and perverted creative expressions into? Why? Because we have powerful expressions, and the rest of the country eats that up and then regurgitates it. Hello, BLM. Hello, guilty liberal white people. So we've been the delivery system for a lot of perversion in this country, including Patrick Moynihan tried to warn us decades and decades ago, and he got ran out with accusations of white supremacy. He tried to say, hey, the epidemic of fatherlessness in the Black community is going to kill America. It's going to leave the Black community. It's going to exit the Black community. It's going to come back out to the rest of the country. And then we're all going to suffer, because fatherlessness is a disease and an infection. It's an infectious disease. And he was right. And even to this day, to mention his name will make people upset. But he was right. So here we are. I've been saying over and over again, you know what, Black people, we have no place in the political discourse if we're not going to train ourselves how to participate in it properly and intelligently. Stokely Carmichael said that before he went off the rails and became an African, like a, back to the homeland kind of African guy. Stokely Carmichael said that, though, in the early days of the civil rights movements, in the student-led civil rights movement, he said, right back then, the King crowd, the Martin Luther King crowd, was saying, all right, now we've got to go take over Congress. We got to get into Congress. We got to be represented. And they started putting up candidates, and Stokely Carmichael said, no, this is not a good idea. We should be training our candidates first. We should be training Black Americans, because we've been denied all of this education. We've been denied the ability to be folded into the American dream. We need to educate ourselves on the system of government, how it works. We need to become powerful through education, right? And then we should be but we didn't do that. And that's how you have the Congressional Black Caucus today. A bunch of idiots, a bunch of morons. You hear them talk and you're like, how did they get to Congress? They don't sound like they can even read. And that's like a lot of Black intellectuals these days. That's who they are. They're repetitive. They use big words without really using them in context. They use vague ideas because they're trained how to give you talking points, how to give you preaching talking points without backing them up. Michael Eric Dyson, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, Eric Michael Dyson, who cares? He's one of the worst offenders. Ibram X. Kendi, one of the worst offenders. Just people who have traded on the notion of Black supremacy without needing any education. And that's what Stokely Carmichael was saying. And he was saying, if we don't we need to integrate ourselves into the system by mastering the system, not by like coming in really green and naive, not understanding how things work, and then letting ourselves be taken advantage of. And that's what's happened. And that's where we are now. And so I think what Stokely Carmichael really saw, maybe he didn't even know that he was seeing that, but what he really saw is eventually people are going to get sick of us. And then what? And then we're in big trouble again. We need to integrate into the system, not overrule the system or take over the system. All right. I want to go to some Karmelo Anthony footage here, some reaction here, because this is part, and then I want to move to Belfast, and then I have to go. Okay. Let's do number one. We'll start at 1. Here's a reaction. One reaction outside the courtroom to the Karmelo Anthony verdict. Go ahead.
I don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion here.
That's what Karmelo was doing. That's what Karmelo was doing. Protecting his motherfucking self.
I don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion here.
That's what Karmelo was doing. That's what Karmelo was doing.
Okay, let's go to number 2. Let's go to clip number 2. All right, that was directly outside the courtroom after the verdict was delivered. That's Nick Sorter. I think that's Nick Sorter who took that footage. Nick Sorter was there. He's a great follow on X. If you don't follow Nick Sorter, great reporter. All right, number 2, here is a woman screeching about the Karmelo Anthony verdict. She's saying that Austin Metcalf's twin brother should have been murdered too. Go ahead.
They should have both been arrested.
They should both have been dead. Both brothers. Both of them should have been dead. You ask me?
I want you to pay attention to the makeup of this crowd. All right, go ahead. All right, stop that there. All right, I'm going to play one more clip for you. All right, let's do number 3. This woman again outside the courthouse after the Karmelo Anthony verdict. Let's listen to her.
To be honest, why are we here? What are we here for? Because if we take up for ourselves, we go to jail. If we don't, we die. So it's a catch-22 in this situation. What do you want us to do? What do you want us to do at this point? What? I'm lost for it. I don't know what to do.
Tonight, emotions boiling over outside the courthouse. Protesters in each other's faces, some openly weeping. And for others, relief that justice was served.
All right, you can stop it there.
I believe.
I watched clip after clip after clip last night of reactions to this verdict, which was the right verdict. You cannot stab somebody because you don't like them. You cannot stab somebody because you got into an argument or an altercation with them. You cannot stab somebody because you don't like the way that they talked to you. But I want to point out, this is what I was thinking last night as I was scrolling through clip after clip. I was like, look at these women. It's all women. And they're full of rage. And it is not just rage. I know some of you, I can already hear you, imaginary listener. You're out there like, oh, well, they're enraged about the injustice. No, you can pick anything on any day, and this is the same reaction you get from Black women. Many Black women. I'm a Black woman. You never see me like that. But like, I watched a video from stores at night, like on Instagram, my algorithm feeds this, or security altercation at stores or in parking lots, or it's always the same, or high school graduations. There's a big controversy going on in the Black community right now about how we act at high school graduations. Like, and every time that who is standing in front of the camera screaming, screeching, full of rage. You see the eyes of those women just full of rage. There's no reason to be had. There's no it's just pure rage. So then you look at a kid like Karmelo Anthony, or a lot of these young black men that you see in these street takeover videos, and there's no end to those, is there? They just keep coming and coming and coming. These street takeovers, store takeovers, smash and grab gangs. And you see a lot of these young men too. And they also or they're also just rageful, like smashing things for no reason. It's not prankery, it's not trickery. It's rage. Or this is the other thing I do sometimes at night when I'm doom scrolling. I'll look through people who resist police arrest, and a lot of times as black people, almost always, and Karens and white Karens. I mean, one and the same. Y'all are one and the same. And, but it's always, a lot of times it's mostly a woman. Believe it or not, it's more women than men. And the woman's always like, no, I'm not getting out of the car. I'm not getting out of the car. You can't make me get out of the car. And then when they're made to get out of the car, just screaming, screeching, hollering. It's the rage that I cannot stop seeing. So when you wonder why young men like Karmelo Anthony, and he's not the only one, this happens a lot. I mean, we moved from Gary, Indiana, where this is it. I don't want to say it happens all the time, but it's not uncommon. I had a cousin, her boyfriend was murdered because when he was washing his car one day, some of the water got on his neighbor's car. So his neighbor came out of the house and shot him dead. This is a thing that happened. And, but when you go to the communities where we're most concentrated, which at this point in time is the inner city, although the black middle class is rising. Hello, thank you. You're welcome. But when you go, you see young men like Karmelo Anthony responding like that. And you have to ask yourself why. That's what happens when men have been eliminated from your community. That's what happens when fatherhood has been eliminated from your community. You have women, a lot of them really just doing the best they can, by the way. When you see those rage-filled women on your clips and TV, that's not the majority of our community, but it's enough to cause a problem. And when you have women who are filled with rage because they've been abandoned and they have not been loved and protected the way that God has commanded they be loved and protected, right? By the way he has set up our sex, set up our humanity. They have not experienced that. And then that sows rage. And then they give birth to young men and women who are abandoned by their fathers. And then that sows rage. So now you have generational rage. It's not racism. It's not generational racism. It's generational rage. Now you take what used to be a great form of expression and political dissidents in the rap community, and then you dump perversion into it. You pull out the creatives, right? Or you make them fail. You turn them into one-hit wonders. You expel them from the industry. You install people like P. Diddy and Jay-Z, whom I believe are connected to, the satanic global cult. You install people like that. And those are just two names. I mean, this has been going on forever. Look up Clive Davis. He's not black, but look up Clive Davis and how the industry changed when Clive Davis dug his paws into it. And then you co-opt these people, you dump their perversion into the black community. And what does all of that perversion do? It sucks out innocence. It sucks out intelligence. It sucks out community. It's a succubus. It's like a vampire. We've had these vampires in our communities, and they have stolen love, grace, intelligence, community from us. And then what do we get in return? Black Lives Matter. That just tells us, oh, you need fewer men. The men are the problem. The policemen, They're the problem. The fathers, the patriarchy, that's the problem. Is it no wonder that when you turn the cameras on us, 6 times out of 10, you're getting these lunatic women that you've seen screaming into the camera like they have no sense? Like, even if you have experienced injustice, you look like an absolute fool. You look like an animal. And I don't think white people are inclined to tolerate this much longer. Culture has shifted. And I'm nervous. And I'm not the only black person that has been saying this. I have heard this from other black people. We have talked about it. We talk about it behind our closed doors. Yeah, I'm a little scared. Yeah. We have pushed this whole thing way too far. And now I fear we are in for a deep overcorrection. So what do we do? I'm going to do what I've always done, and what my husband and I have always done. We have always sought to be leaders who are black, right? For the black community. When we lived in Gary, Indiana, we were heavily involved in education. We funded scholarships. We ran a program. We have another nonprofit that we have set up to help that community, not the community we live. We've moved to the Orange County suburbs where there's a lot of white people. And coincidentally, it's very peaceful here. But we now live in the Orange County suburbs, but we still support, we still fund efforts there. We want to make our community and encourage our community to be once again a community of hard workers, creators, influential in the positive way in our nation. I don't believe that what has happened to us is our fault. I think it's been done to us. That's neither here nor there. We're the only ones that can decide our ways out of this situation. So I'm going to keep advocating for good, common sense American values. And that's what I've always said. I advocate for liberty because I'm a conservative because I believe conservatism is the quickest way for Black America to the American dream. It's the shortest straight line. And that's why I'm a conservative. And that's why I'm a patriotic American. And I know a lot of us get accused of being sellouts, which has never fazed me and still does not. Bring it, put it in the comments as if I care. A lot of people have always accused me of being a sellout, but they don't know anything about me or my past or where I come from or what I've been through. I know what real racism is. I've experienced it, like the kind that cuts you, the kind that makes you bleed, literally. The kind where people call you the N-word openly and not, because they're just greeting you. I know what real racism is, so I really don't care if you want to call me a sellout. People like me have been accused of that forever. But I think the sellouts are the people who look at women like that, screeching and screaming into the camera over a young man getting a sentence, having a jury trial, having his rights upheld, a young man who killed another young man and screaming into the camera like that. We don't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like this. And frankly, well, first of all, let me say this. It saddens me to see Karmelo Anthony now. And then that was my first thought when this story broke. My first thought wasn't, oh, what was the situation here? Did he, was it self-defense? It seemed pretty obvious from the start that this young man was wrong and he murdered somebody. But I guess my second thought was a moment of rage, and he has ruined his entire life. He's got everything in front of him. He lives in a free country, the greatest country on earth. He's got the future in front of him. And he's going to go to prison for, the rest of his life, or the most important part of his life. Because he made a terrible, terrible, selfish, rash decision. And that to me, that's a tragedy too. That is such a deep tragedy. And how many of our young men are carrying that tragedy? And whose fault is that? It's our fault. We're cursing them with that. All those women, those mothers who were screaming at the camera that I just played for you, they're responsible for that. We're responsible for that. We're raising young men in our communities who feel that it is okay, that they are entitled to rage and be violent at any provocation. They have no discipline. They have no self-control. They haven't been taught it. Furthermore, they've been encouraged to act like animals because that behavior has been rewarded. Hello, summer of love, summer of BLM. That behavior has been rewarded over and over and over again. Look at what happened in DC when Trump finally sent in the National Guard, or Memphis. And Trump was saying, like, of course it's going to get worse. These people, they create these people, you know, just criminals in general. Calm down. They create havoc, produce crime, and then the judicial system just lets them go. These kids, you know, you've seen videos of kids, black kids, young black men in DC who are confronted with the police going, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get right back out. I'm not going to jail. I know I'm not going to jail. We've created this mess. We have created the rage that has put Karmelo Anthony in jail because we created an atmosphere that made him feel entitled to any kind of rage. And guess this is what I'm saying when I say white people have been pushed far enough, because if typically what has been happening, and black people have been taking advantage of this, typically what has been happening in public is white people have been backing down when black people get angry or upset or loud. Because BLM came along and we were like, no, you know, remember like white people were apologizing for everything. I told you the story about my husband during the heat of the BLM movement, being in Home Depot and this white lady like randomly just approaching him and apologizing to him. He's looking at plants, minding his own business. She's like, I just want you to know I'm so sorry. He was like, about what? You know, he's just a regular guy. It's a regular black guy. He was like, about what? Did you hit my car or something in the parking lot? She was like, well, just about, you know, I hope you feel welcome in our community. We're glad you're here. We've been living in this community for 20 years, lady. We never felt not welcome until you decided you had to apologize to us for some vague, random reason. Like, we're creating this atmosphere where a lot of this behavior is not just condoned, but it's celebrated. And then the BLM, the Marxists, the communists really have also created an atmosphere where white people feel like they have to be apologetic and have to back down, and they can't stand up for themselves because they get accused of racism every time they do. And I think a lot of people with bad intentions, black people with bad intentions, have taken advantage of that. And I just don't think white people are in the mood to put up with it anymore. And that's a dangerous place to be because they're still the majority in this country. They still own a majority of the wealth, the majority of the jobs, the majority of the innovation. Like, we have made a deep, grave error by allowing ourselves to be sucked into the binary of race, of white and black racism. Do you see what the Marxists have done? Do you see what the communists have done? They have divided us left and right, and now they've made one side Nazis and the other side righteous, and anyone that is to the left or to the right of Karl Marx is a Nazi. They've divided us into black and brown versus white, right? Isn't that interesting how they folded the brown people? I wrote an article for Red State years ago about the term black and brown people and how I think that's offensive to black people. It is hijacking the legacy of black Americans and making it and watering it down to make it a brown people legacy. And it's not. Indian people don't share the racial history of black Americans. You know, Asians don't share it. Whatever, people from the Sudan, Somalia, no, they don't share it. Africans don't share it. They don't share it. And yet we're supposed to share this legacy, and suddenly it reduces it. It doesn't just reduce it, but it waters it down. It waters down the conversation and what we're really fighting for. And then it adds all these other angry, uncivilized people to our side, and now we have to claim them. I don't like it. We've been made black and brown, and no, we need to go back to just black. We need to go back to when it was just black people and white people hating on each other. That's American. That's what we need to do. But the brown people have co-opted this fight. And now it's become something totally different. And we have been pulled into believing this binary that it's left versus right, and it's black, and it's, white versus everybody else, black and brown versus white people. And the reality of it is, it's the people versus the elite. That's what it is. It's the average person versus the government. That's what it is. The elitists have brought you BLM. The elitists brought you the Karmelo Anthony struggle. The elitists brought you what's happening in Belfast, which you're not going to have time to talk about right now because I got to get going. The elitists brought us that. They are laughing at us while we tear each other apart. So, and again, my old show, Just Listen to Yourself, was really dedicated to how do we come together? How do we understand both sides of this equation so we can meet somewhere to have some fruitful discussions? But I am no longer in the mood for that. We tried to do it the nice way, in the calm way. We sent you our best. We sent you Charlie, and you killed him. So I'm no longer in the mood for this. Let's come together with the other side. No, the other side is killing us. They have killed the black community. They have made fools of us. They have made us into fools. And now we're likely going to pay the price in other ways too. I don't blame any white person for being upset about any of this. I don't blame anybody. I really don't. I don't blame white people, but I am worried that we're not going to take the right lessons from this, which is we have been pitted against each other. And the real struggle is not between white and black people, left and right. The real struggle is the people against the elitists who want to keep us angry, who want to keep us enraged, who want to keep us murdering each other so that they can keep selling us their fake solutions while putting their boots on our necks and keeping us in a constant state of rage and unproductiveness. And the way to combat that is not to ignore it, which is what a lot of Americans, including myself, have been trying to do. The way to combat that is not that. The way to combat that is discipline, is to do actually what the Irish are doing right now, to stand up and say, we're not doing this anymore. We're not capitulating to your stupid white supremacy cult, where everyone's a white supremacist if they don't toe the Marxist line. We're not capitulating to that. We're not capitulating to your accusations of racism or sexism or transphobia or Islamophobia or whatever phobia you want to throw at us. We're not capitulating to that anymore. We're flying the American flag and we're uniting under the American flag. And the elitists who don't want us to unite, they're showing themselves. And that's who we're going to target. That's who we're going after. That's who the problem is. The elitists brought you those screaming, screeching black women over the Karmelo Anthony verdict. How freaking embarrassing. How freaking embarrassing. Karmelo Anthony is getting the justice he deserves. Let us pray that it ends there. Let us pray that where justice is served, justice will spread. That's where we are. Black folks, we need to turn it inward. Okay, we need to turn it inward. Karmelo Anthony's family raised $500,000 on the murder of Austin Metcalf. And did they use it? Well, they should use it for their son's defense, and they didn't. But then they didn't even use it for the black community. Hey, let's establish some programs, the legal defense. But no, they bought a new house. They bought new cars. Black people, let's turn it inward, okay? Let's look at ourselves. Let's look at what is creating this for us, the influences that come from the outside and what we can do from the inside. Let's bring back masculinity. Let's bring back our fathers. Let's bring back discipline. Let's bring back the commitment to education. Let's bring back accountability and self-responsibility. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's hold each other accountable. And that's when we will see a flourishing in our neighborhoods. Well, tell me where I'm wrong. Drop it in the comments. Write to me. Do all the stuff. Follow us everywhere. I've got to get going because I've got another meeting. And I'm sure this has been a pretty controversial episode for people. Frankly, don't care what anyone thinks anymore. We're in deep, deep doo-doo. Belfast is burning, and it's a warning for America. It's time for America to be American again. Okay? All right. Bye. Peace out.